Welcome back to another episode of Fostering the People podcast, a podcast that encourages everyone to really go after the goals that they want to accomplish and foster growth within themselves, regardless of the foundation they started with. Thank you for tuning in thus far. We are on episode 8, and oh my goodness, it's been a long time, but it hasn't been that long now, has it? So last week we talked about just how to process and move forward after failing and things not going the way that you expected, or at least in the time frame that you expected. And so to build off of that, I really want to talk about the different types of friction in our lives. So friction causes us to slow down. It causes us to realize that something is harder than what we initially expected. It pushes us back and really forces us to think differently about what the end goal was. But there is a difference between friction that breaks you versus friction that encourages you to keep going. Because if you listen to last week's episode, you already know that I failed an exam. But this isn't the first time I failed the exam. And so I've been facing a lot of resistance and friction towards passing this exam. And I'm still processing it and what that really means and everything, but that is not just a coincidence in my opinion. I think that means something specifically. And to break down the different types of frictions, I want to start off by first talking about the friction that breaks us and causes us to kind of rethink things. The first friction is the friction that just completely drains you. And even if you are willing it to work out, this friction just constantly takes and never builds anything back up on top of you. Then we have productive friction. And productive friction is friction that you experience that even though something may not work out, you are still learning and growing from that particular situation, and you can see that. Now, the first friction, if you think about it, think of a relationship and just experiencing a relationship with somebody that you may like, but for some reason or another, it just doesn't work out. And it doesn't matter how much you will it to happen, it just still doesn't work out. You guys just keep butting heads. That is essentially toxic friction. For productive friction, maybe you didn't pass an exam, but that particular situation taught you what you need to do better in order to get a better score the next time. Or maybe you failed a class and you know how you failed and you're going to continue to keep going after it. So there are a few ways to determine whether or not you are in a situation where you have productive friction or toxic friction. And I think the first question you need to ask yourself is this thing stretching me or is it crushing me? Because productive friction is meant to stretch you, not crush you. The second thing you want to ask yourself is this friction pushing me forward or pushing me down? Because if you're being pushed forward, even if it is uncomfortable, that is progress. But if you are constantly losing part of yourself in the process of this friction, then I don't think that's really supportive. The third thing you want to ask yourself is, can you see the end goal? Can you envision the end result of this particular situation that you're questioning right now? Because if you can see how it's going to play out and you can see how it will benefit you, then that's productive friction. But if you can only see negativity, then that is probably toxic friction. And as we are trying to foster growth within ourselves, we really need to pay attention to the type of friction we're experiencing. Given the experiences that I've recently had, for example, the exam that I took, I think that me failing a third time, I think it's still productive friction, but not in the sense that I want to take this exam again. I think that it's helping me kind of understand what my worth is in terms of my career and the skills that I bring. And I really just need to be more clear and intentional about what I want to do and how I want to get there. I think productive friction is important for everyone to experience because the lessons and skills that you learn from productive friction, you can't learn this shit from anywhere else. Just really think about like how the productive friction that you've experienced in the past has shaped you into who you are today. And when you experience friction in the future, remember that there are two different types of friction, and one only makes you a better version of yourself. The other keeps you from being the better version of yourself. And so you can identify that. Okay guys, so my microphone just died and my allergies are not being kind to me. So if you're watching on video, I don't want to hear nothing, okay? So let's take a step back, because when you are experiencing friction, it's super uncomfortable and you just experience a lot of emotions with it. But how do you deal with friction in the midst of it to have the motivation to keep going? For me, there are two things. I think the first thing is like, I have to be comfortable with uncertainty. And I think I've gotten a lot better within the past like 9 months with that. I am the type of person that has to think of plan A, B, C, and D before the event even happens. I've been that way for honestly ever since foster care, but it just gives me comfort to know that even if shit hits the fan, I got a plan. So it's never going to be like that bad. And I have to realize that I can't control every situation. And in order for me to be comfortable with that, I choose to have faith in something greater than me. I choose to have faith in the fact that I know that the experiences that I have are going to make me into a better version of myself and put me in a better situation than I'm currently in. Because if you don't have faith, then you can't be comfortable with uncertainty. And you just have to realize that if 2026 hasn't showed us anything, it's that life gon' life, okay? So productive friction is beneficial. Toxic friction is, keyword there is toxic. And we just need to practice that if we are working on developing ourselves and fostering growth within ourselves. And it's definitely something that I'm still working towards. That is not easy, but I think that I'll be better for it once I can identify what a particular situation is and then move accordingly instead of trying to like let it linger essentially. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fostering the People podcast. We are on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Fostering the People, just at Fostering the People. And if you have any questions or just want to ask for advice or anything, please feel free to reach out on those platforms or just comment. But also make sure you like, subscribe, and share. So thank you. See you next week.